It's official. Toronto is getting its own WNBA team. The Prime Minister, Premier, and Mayor were all on hand for today's big announcement, and so was our Chris Glover.
It took a lot of hands to make this work, but today, more sports history was made in Toronto.
I am honored to officially announce that we have awarded the City of Toronto the 14th WNBA franchise.
The Women's Pro Basketball League, the WNBA, is expanding outside the U.S. for the first time. The league's commissioner says she picked Toronto after a successful preseason game at Scotiabank Arena last May.
Lots of people coming up to me and saying, thank you for making my dreams come true by bringing a WNBA game here. That's when I knew this is the right place as we're thinking about expansion.
About 30 years ago, the men's league, the NBA, chose Toronto. Many credited Larry Tannenbaum for making that happen. And now, decades later, the history maker strikes again.
This is all possible because of Larry Tannenbaum.
The owner of the Raps will now own Toronto's WNBA team too. Determined to make it Canada's team, he says home will be the Coca-Cola Coliseum, but games will be played in Vancouver and Montreal, part of his mission to inspire girls across the country.
But these young women never saw someone like themselves on the brightest stage playing the sport they love. Now, the WNBA has changed all that. And today, we're changing that here in Canada.
The team will start playing in 2026 under team president Teresa Resch, the former Raptors VP of Operations.
When we get to go across, coast to coast to coast in Canada and play these games, it's going to be incredible, and we can't wait to see everybody around the country really show up.
Several of Toronto's most celebrated basketball icons were in the audience for the unveiling, including retired WNBA champion, Hall of Famer, and two-time All-Star Tammy Sutton-Brown, who grew up in the GTA.
Wow. I always hope for this day. I think as an athlete, you look forward to playing in front of family and friends, and I always wish I could play on Canadian soil. I wasn't able to, but the Canadians that are playing in the W right now will have that opportunity, and the future Canadians will have that opportunity. So this is a really, really special day.
And it wasn't just leaders in sport tapping into this special day.
Just the glory of it is huge. Proud to be part of a country that uplifts women in sport.
Do hereby proclaim May 23rd, 2024 as WNBA Day in the city of Toronto.
The mayor officially putting today in the history books, already laying it up for Toronto's next pro team.
And I'll work with City Council to make sure that we are ready for another huge championship parade.
The kind of pressure from a proven, relentless fan base that every Toronto pro team has to get used to. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
After 22 days, the University of Toronto is making an offer to student protesters who have taken over a part of its downtown campus. Since the start of the pro-Palestinian encampment, students have demanded U of T disclose all its investments, divest from investments affiliated with Israel, and cut academic ties with Israeli universities. Tyler Cheese joins us outside the university president's office tonight. And Tyler, what can you tell us about the school's offer?
Yeah, Kelda, it really feels like the university is saying enough is enough. They want the encampment gone, and they've given students 24 hours to respond to this offer. And that's after the administration met with students earlier today. Now, after that, University President Merrick Gertler met with reporters just after and said that if students don't accept the offer, trespassing notices will be issued and that further action might be required. Now, he didn't expand on what further action means, but he was asked about possible police intervention and said that nothing's off the table.
Our offer is fair and reasonable. Our approach is in keeping with the university's fundamental commitments to free expression, peaceful protest, and the diversity of opinions that exist in our community. We are situating this discussion where it belongs, within the clear and robust policies and procedures the university already has in place to consider divestment requests.
So this offer includes a lot of details, but the university is addressing each of the students' main demands. When it comes to divestment, U of T says it is willing to consider and expedite a review of the divestment process. The president will establish an advisory committee with the goal of issuing a report and recommendations no later than October of this year. For a disclosure of investments, U of T is offering to set up an expert working group to consider options for disclosure and increased transparency related to its investments. And as part of the offer, students of the encampment have been told they can recommend people they feel are qualified to sit on both the advisory committee and the disclosure working group, but the ultimate decision would be with the president. As for the students' third demand, that the university cut ties with Israeli schools on occupied lands, U of T has flat out refused that. The president says doing so would go against the university's commitment to academic freedom. He further explained the university has been looking to increase opportunities for Palestinian scholars and faculty and to grow Palestinian studies at the university. And that's something he says has been ongoing long before the encampment started. Now, a group of students gathered outside the president's office while he spoke to the media, and some there said they're not likely to accept the offer, and at least one social media post from the U of T Occupy for Palestine profile suggested the group finds the offer offensive. One student here described this offer and the following news conference as the university blindsiding them and said the threat of trespassing notices undermines the university's stated goal of a peaceful resolution to the encampment. But Kelda, we're also hearing that encampment leaders are taking the night to think this over, and we'll have a more detailed response at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thanks so much, Tyler. That's Tyler Cheese reporting for us from U of T. To Mississauga now, where one person is dead and another critically injured after a schoolyard shooting. It happened just after 11 o'clock last night in a parking lot at Settlers Green Public School near Winston Churchill and Battleford. Ali Chiasson has those details.
20 evidence markers marked spent shell casings. The bullets flew just after 11 o'clock last night between groups of people converged around their vehicles. Police say there was some kind of gathering, some kind of altercation that ended up with 2 people shot. A man in his 40s is dead and a teenager is in critical condition, and a suspect still at large. Investigators are retracing their steps as they piece together what happened.
At the time, it was pretty populated in the evening. Varying reports of anywhere from 10 to 20 people gathered in that lot for reasons we don't know yet. And at the time of the shooting, there are reports of vehicles leaving the area, but it's too early to tell at the moment whether those are witnesses or suspects or just individuals fleeing the sound of gunfire.
Neighbors tell me it's pretty typical to see people hanging out in this school parking lot late into the evening, sometimes in their cars, but no one would have expected something like this to happen.
I pulled in yesterday around 10:30 and I saw a bunch of kids just walking into the park, which isn't completely unusual because we do sometimes see like high-end cars over there and some people hanging around. But then around 11 we heard like 2 or 3 pop sounds, and when my husband went to go look from our side window, he did see like a little bit of a flash, and we thought, okay, maybe this late firecrackers, like late Victoria Day thing.
Peel Regional Police confirmed that this was not a random shooting. They believe this was targeted, and that tells you that things are heating up in this investigation as they search for suspects. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Mississauga.
Police services across the GTA, including here in Toronto, launched their annual campaign to combat street racing today.
It's crucial for people to understand the risks associated with illegal street racing and the potential consequences, not only for themselves, but for other users of our roads. We want to emphasize the importance of keeping racing activities confined to legal racetracks. This is essential for public safety.
Police say they have seen a 31% increase in calls related to stunt driving since May of last year. So far in 2024, police have laid 579 stunt driving charges and 215 related criminal charges, such as impaired driving. The campaign, called Project Erase, aims to remind drivers the dangers of street racing and the potential consequences if they are caught, including a 30-day license suspension and a minimum $2,000 fine. They are an increasingly popular way to get around Toronto, but e-scooters will remain illegal after a vote by City Council today. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has more on the decision to keep them off the streets.
E-scooters are just about everywhere in this city. But the micro-mobility vehicles are illegal across Toronto, even if they are widely used. And councillors took another long-awaited look at whether or not to lift that ban today. And after debate, they voted to keep it firmly in place.
Madam Speaker, recommendation 1 carries. The vote is 19-3.
The scooters can travel as fast as 24 kilometers an hour, and advocates for the disabled say they are a safety risk. The city wants the federal government to regulate the vehicles before they take action. Lifting the ban opens the city up to liability, staff say.
We are really focused on road safety, as you know, and we see in cities that adopt e-scooter pilots that the crashes with people who are riders goes way, way up, and that's not a situation that we're going to solve until we have better standards for the equipment.
Councillor Diane Sachs says e-scooters are a convenient way to get around the city's congested streets, and failing to regulate the vehicles means they'll continue to be ridden on sidewalks and in bike lanes.
We're just continuing to pretend as if they're not there. We're not doing any significant enforcement. The police admitted they don't have any plan for trying to get all those scooters off the street. So by refusing to regulate them, we're just washing our hands and not taking any action.
This isn't the first time council has said no to legalizing e-scooters. In 2021, council first decided to ban the small motorized vehicles on city streets, citing safety concerns. Councillor Chris Moy says with each passing year, e-scooter use grows, and yet the city continues to ignore it.
They're being sold in every corner of our city. In my ward in particular, just walking here to work, I've seen 3 or 4 places that sell them. So by not enforcing it, we're actually doing a disservice to our community.
This cycling advocate says the city's trying to balance the benefits of micromobility with justified safety concerns. Without proper regulation from other governments, cities are left to figure it out.
The city's in a bind because it's at the mercy of what the federal and provincial governments want to do for our streets and roads.
The city will now post more signs reminding people e-scooters are banned, and they've left the door open to revisiting the decision in the future. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
We have an exclusive update now on a human rights complaint against Bell Media. Former CP24 personality Patricia Jagernoth filed the complaint against the company back in 2022 for discrimination. Well, now a new report shows Bell could lose its bid to have her case thrown out. Olivia Bowden has those details.
I just felt, wow, this moment of vindication.
Patricia Jagernoth is feeling there could be light at the end of the tunnel in her fight with Bell.
CP24 and Toronto Caribbean Carnival giving you a taste of the island flavor.
The former CP24 host has alleged a pattern of racism, sexism, and discrimination during her 11 years at Bell, including allegations that she and other women were paid significantly less than men. She filed a human rights complaint against the company at the end of 2022. And now, a new confidential report shared with CBC Toronto by Jagernoth's legal team indicates her case is being taken seriously. In the report, the Canadian Human Rights Commission recommends her case be referred for a hearing if it can't be settled in 4 months. The report says her complaint raises serious human rights issues that are systemic in nature, and that there's a strong public interest around the case. Jagernoth says the report is validating.
I cried when I saw this because it's 2 years of people thinking that it's not true. It's 2 years of me fighting. It's 2 years of hearing other people's stories and people thinking that we're just, like, our stories don't matter. To get this final report in the moment where I was like, Catherine, what are we gonna do? It was so validating.
Jagernoth's lawyer, Catherine Marshall, says she hasn't seen the commission respond to a case in this way before.
What is unusual is to see language that is just so adamant that what happened here with my client, with Patricia, was wrong, and that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
The report also points to one of many pieces of evidence Jagernoth provided to the commission, including a letter written by one of Jagernoth's female colleagues to their union in 2019. Jaggernaut's legal team provided CBC Toronto with that letter. It's written on behalf of 3 female hosts and alleges years of pay disparity. It states the company clearly does not take our concerns seriously. Bell Media told CBC News the company respects the commission's process and will not comment publicly, adding, Bell Media takes allegations of any potential discrimination or workplace misconduct very seriously and is committed to a safe, inclusive, and respectful work environment where employees can thrive. If a matter is brought to our attention where an employee did not feel adequately supported, a process is initiated to review and address when required. As for what's next, Jaggernaut says she's open to hearing from Bell, but so far has heard nothing. Still, she's sending them a clear message.
Are you listening to the people? Are you giving the community who's actually watching your programming what they're asking for? You're not. Bell, do better.
Olivia Bowden, CBC News, Toronto.
The Mississauga by-election is just 2.5 weeks away, and no surprise, among the most important issues to residents is affordability. Research from the Wellesley Institute found that being single in Mississauga costs a lot more than what a full-time living wage worker earns in the GTA. Talia Ricci takes a look.
You may have heard of the idea of the single tax. It's the concept that people who are single are forced to pay a lot more for their living expenses. What might surprise you is one recent study shows that cost is actually higher here in Mississauga than it is in Toronto.
The study that I did is called Thriving in this City, and I looked at single working age adults between the ages of 25 and 40 in Mississauga. We found that it's much more expensive to live in Mississauga. It's actually $22,000 more to live in Mississauga. The city of Toronto, it costs about $62,000, whereas in Mississauga, it costs $84,000.
According to the study, that is far above the earnings of a minimum wage full-time worker, which is close to $26,000 after taxes. The highest costs are associated with fundamental aspects of life such as shelter, transportation, and savings.
When we're looking at just generational growth, building our society in general, single working adults are an important part of our population.
For some looking to the future, living a comfortable life one day feels out of reach.
I've heard that a lot of people have just given up on owning a home. I'm still in grade 12. We don't talk about that often, but I get the feeling a lot of people just have a sense of it's not going to be good.
Is the sole income earner. I do notice the difference when I buy grocery, for example, or try to eat out. It all adds up. To tackle this issue, I even had to rent out my basement.
Fahim Abrar just became a Canadian citizen, so this is the first election he's able to vote in. Despite having stable work, affordability remains top of mind.
I would say I'm well off as a software engineer, but even I'm feeling the pinch. I just think of all the people who are unable to afford, and it just breaks my heart. I can see very clearly how unaffordable it has become in this city. I see a distinct difference between how the prices were before COVID and after COVID.
The Mississauga Food Bank has noticed that too. Visits to the food bank have gone up 300% since the pandemic.
I think that's why people are coming to food banks who've never needed it before, because the amount that used to enable you to live a comfortable life just doesn't cut it anymore. Sometimes folks saying, I live on my own, one salary, and all the expenses for that is too much. Or they say, we often hear people kind of saying, I used to give to food drives. I used to send food with my kids to school, and I can't believe I'm here having to ask for support.
The hope is that with this election, change is on the horizon.
I see a huge potential for the city in the next 50 years. We have to make sure that the mayor represents our voice to the upper levels of governments and that we get a fair deal to improve the affordability.
The Mississauga Food Bank is hosting a debate on Thursday, and affordability is expected to be a big part of the conversation. Voters head to the polls on June 10th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Mississauga.
Welcome back. A new community hub that will provide access to key social and healthcare services is coming to Thorncliffe Park. A groundbreaking for the site took place today.
This will be the one place for people to access vital health services and social programs, all nested within the community, so that the traditional barriers of accessing care and social services are broken.
The community hub will host a variety of services, including primary health care, dental care, and immigration support. The 67,000 square foot facility is slated to open at the end of September. And a gorgeous day outside today, and not as sticky as it was the last couple of days. Victor Palo joins us now with a first look at the forecast. Victor, how's it looking?
Another beautiful day in Toronto today. Now that high pressure system is a big contributing factor as to why there's not that much cloud cover, and we could really see and feel a lot of that sun. Now that's going to translate into tonight, where if you do look up into the sky, you get to see a lot of stars and you get to see that moon. I'm a big fan of stargazing, and high pressure systems give us that chance to really get a nice peek at all the stars above. Now tomorrow's going to be another day where we have a high UV index, so you want to make sure you're putting on that sunscreen as well as putting on a hat, and you're going to be hydrated when you're outdoors as well. With the hot temperatures, it's very easy to forget, and it's very easy for that sun to take advantage of the damage which it can do to you if you're not properly protected. Now, when it comes to the weekend as well, we're expecting a bit of precipitation, but that precipitation will be coming towards on Saturday closer to 3 o'clock. It's not going to be too big, and it's not going to last too long. Now, average temperatures for today, 21.8 is your average high and 10.7 is your average low. And I was talking about that high pressure system which we're under right now. As you do see, here's what your Friday is going to look like. No cloud cover, no precipitation, a beautiful way to get in towards the weekend. Now, when it comes to Saturday around 6 o'clock in the morning, still going to be a high pressure system over the GDA, still going to be a beautiful day. But if you do look over here, right over Colorado and right over around the Midwest of the U.S., this is the system that's going to be working its way coming towards us over here by the time it's Saturday. Now you can see by the time it's over Manitoba, it's a pretty big system, but by the time it does get towards the Greater Toronto area to around midday on Saturday, it's going to come to pretty small, and it's not going to be as big as you do see here around 3 o'clock. It should be all said and done closer to almost 6 o'clock, giving us a nice cool night with cooler temperatures after that rain passed by. Now a quick look at what we're expecting for the overnight temperatures. Should be in the mid-teens here, and as well, we're looking for tomorrow morning. If you're a big fan of that 6 a.m. tea time club, if you like to get out early, beat the crowds and beat the heat, it's going to be around 14 degrees in Toronto, 17 in Ottawa if you want to get outside and hit those tees. Now another thing we're looking forward to when it comes to our 3 and 5 day forecast is 26 is going to be our high for Friday. As you do see, it's going to get hot really quickly, and the lows for 13. Now we're expecting a bit of rain on Saturday, and as well Monday, Tuesday, we're bringing some precipitation as well. But hey, a beautiful sunny Friday. Over to you, Kelda.
Okay, thanks. Welcome back. A new study finds mercury poisoning near the Ontario First Nation Grassy Narrows is getting more dangerous. As Lorena Redicop reports, it says pollutants from a nearby company are to blame.
We've elected to release this data today because of the urgency of this situation.
A critical situation affecting the Grassy Narrows First Nation and others downstream. This study examined water samples collected from the English Wabigoon River upstream from Grassy Narrows. Researchers found large amounts of pollutants were being added to the water system, meaning double to triple the contamination.
Every minute that there is additional discharge of this sulfate and organic matter into this river, more methylmercury is being formed.
Methylmercury is even more toxic than mercury. This University of Western Ontario researcher says it's being created by a mix of sulfate and organic matter, plus mercury already in the river. Back in the 1960s and 70s, it's estimated the pulp and paper mill dumped 9 tons of mercury into the water. The researcher says his evidence indicates it's not mercury flowing into the water now, but that the pollutants are again coming from the mill.
There are no other industrial sources. There's no other sulfate coming from anywhere else. So this is the source.
The company that owns the Dryden paper mill, Dryden Fibre Canada, says it only recently acquired the mill from another company, Domtar, and says it couldn't comment as we have not seen nor have we been briefed on the report.
We want action. We want something to be done. This has to stop. The polluting has to stop. So either shut the mill down or get your act together and find solutions.
The chief of the Grassy Narrows First Nation says he's one of the people who's dealt with the effects of mercury poisoning. For him, he says, it's been a lack of coordination and shaking. According to data, 90% of people living there have symptoms. People have protested, demanding changes for years.
We've been asking for a river cleanup, and now is the time, especially with this report, that they should take seriously about cleaning up the river.
A statement from the federal government focuses on the millions of dollars it's spending on a Mercury care home on Grassy Narrows. Construction is set to begin in July and take 2 to 3 years.
The Ontario government says it's committed to working to remediate the mercury contamination. It says it has experts now going through this latest report, and it'll be meeting with the researcher and also Indigenous communities next week. Lorenda Radakop, CBC News, Toronto.
A new government bill tabled in the House of Commons today would allow Canadians to pass citizenship rights down to their children born outside the country. Now, it's a move that would reverse a decision by the federal Conservatives under Stephen Harper. Rafi Bujikanian has more.
Catherine Burton worked for the Citizenship and Immigration Department for years, but though she is of Mi'kmaq descent, she is not born here. That has consequences for her 2 boys.
There's only one passage of the Canadian citizenship, so thereby my boys could not receive citizenship, albeit they are status First Nations.
That's due to a change in immigration law brought in under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, meant to crack down on so-called Canadians of convenience, facing pressure after Ottawa paid $85 million to extract Canadian citizens from Lebanon in 2006 during a war between Israel and Hezbollah.
This isn't, again, a free-for-all. This is truly about a technical fix to a bill that should have been done a while ago.
But instead, it's been a long time coming. The Liberal government fought a legal battle against reversing the move, only getting a court order last December to end the cutoff.
We want a citizenship to be fair, accessible, with clear and transparent rules. Not everyone is entitled to it, but for those who are, it needs to be fair.
Mark Miller is proposing the foreign-born children of Canadian parents who have spent 3 cumulative years in this country would become Canadian citizens. His legislation has the NDP's backing.
I've talked to family members where their children are deemed stateless, lost in the system because of this unjust, punitive, unconstitutional law.
But it's not clear how the Conservatives will react. They say they're still studying the Liberals' proposal. Also unclear how many people would be impacted by the measure. The immigration minister suggesting there could be thousands. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The U.S. Justice Department has launched an antitrust lawsuit against Ticketmaster, accusing it and parent company Live Nation of establishing an illegal monopoly in the music concert business.
Our complaint makes clear what happens when a monopolist dedicates its resources to entrenching its monopoly power and insulating itself from competition rather than investing in better products and services.
The U.S. Attorney General says it has led to higher costs for fans, fewer opportunities for artists, and the end of business for many small promoters. Live Nation called the allegations baseless. Ticketmaster owns or controls more than 265 concert venues in North America. Hurricane season officially begins next week, June 1st, and ends in November. Now, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is predicting an exceptionally active storm season.
This season is looking to be an extraordinary one in a number of ways, based on our data and models with the El Nino-La Nina playing out.
Near record warm ocean temperatures will power some fierce weather in the Atlantic. 17 to 25 storms are predicted, the most ever. Now, here at home, the Canadian Hurricane Center is predicting an active storm season off the East Coast. Canadian waters typically see about 35% of the storms that form in the Atlantic. In a massive show of force, China has launched a series of military drills off the coast of Taiwan. Beijing is calling it punishment for separatist forces seeking independence in the self-governing island. Taiwan is condemning it as a provocation to jeopardize peace and stability in the region. Philippe LeBlanc reports from Taipei.
Chinese warships and planes are carrying out 48-hour military drills in the Taiwan Strait in 5 areas surrounding Taiwan. Now, this comes just 3 days after the swearing-in ceremony of Taiwan's new president, Lai Ching-te, someone that Beijing has long called a pro-independence political figure. His speech was deemed by many experts in Canada, the US, and Taiwan as being cautious in regards to the relationship with China. But Beijing was not satisfied, and today a spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing said that these military drills were a stern warning for all the pro-independence voices in Taiwan, and also a punishment. Here in Taiwan, it's being called provocation, and the new president, Lai Ching-te, said he wouldn't hesitate to join his troops on the front line if need be to defend freedom and democracy. As for the U.S., a deputy commander for the U.S. forces in the Indo-Pacific region said that there would be deep consequences if there was to be any sort of military confrontation in the region.
I cannot underscore enough how devastating conflict in the Indo-Pacific region would be. At stake would be untold numbers of lives, trillions of dollars in global economic damage, and an international order, the maintenance of the international order that's delivered relative peace and stability over the past 80 years.
China immediately responded by warning the U.S. to stop backing and selling arms to Taiwan. Now, how are Taiwanese reacting here? Well, some of them are saying that it's just like last year. It's just like 2022 when the Chinese military held similar drills. They say that these Chinese threats, sadly, are part of life and that it's hard to be a Taiwanese. Philippe Leblanc, CBC News, Taipei.
A Toronto man is $70 million richer after winning a recent Lotto Max jackpot, and his reaction to seeing the money deposited into his bank account, it's a must-see. Check it out.
So this is the moment of truth. You're about to log into your bank account, and it's going to look like an international phone number.
Yeah. Holy
the April 19th $70 million Lotto Max jackpot.
I was in complete shock. My knees buckled, you know, you get the sweats, you get the everything that you can imagine with excitement and not knowing what to do, I was doing. Called the rest of our family. Everyone's in disbelief. This is a dream. This is a dream for, oh my gosh, for everyone. You know, you always play to win. I couldn't imagine this. I'm not complaining, but can you imagine this? You can buy anything, but you know, memories is what you're gonna remember. And so I don't look at it as, oh, buying stuff for things, but now we can make memories that can last each of us lifetime. There's a lot of good that I have to do. Not just want to do, I have to. And we will make it happen as a family, as a unit. And we have the privilege to do it, so why not, you know? Every parent wants to give the kids the most. And in a way, I guess I can now. Yeah, I'm gonna cry.
All right, let's go back to Victor now with one more check on your forecast. And Victor, we can expect some beautiful clear skies to end the work week.
Taking a look at what we're going to be expecting when it comes to your weather on Friday and Saturday. A high pressure system, meaning you don't see much precipitation and no cloud cover either. This is my kind of a Friday. As we get into Saturday morning, again, another high pressure system. But as we get later on into Saturday, we will be receiving some rain. And that's because of this system that's going to be coming off of the Midwest. And by the time it arrives over in Manitoba, it's a pretty big system on Friday morning. But as it gets closer towards the GTA on Saturday around 12 o'clock noon into about 3, you see that there will be a chance of thunder showers right here. So don't forget, if you hear that thunder roar, you want to make sure you head indoors. Now, another thing to note about the weather and what we're going to be anticipating is that later on it gets towards your Saturday night into Sunday, a bit of cloud cover, but again, no precipitation, just a touch of cloud cover, which is never a bad thing. And again, taking a look at what we're going to be expecting when your little ones are getting ready for school tomorrow, well, it's going to be a hot start to their day, 17 degrees, not many clouds in the sky, and by the time they get home, it's going to be be 25 degrees and sunny. Now, here's what else we could be expecting when it comes to the weather overnight. It's going to be right here in the mid-teens, and if you're a fan of getting up early at 6 a.m., well, you know it's going to be another mid-teen start to your day, so it's going to be great to beat that heat and get out early. Now, signs of, for example, things you want to do when it is hot outside: drink lots of water, take cool showers, wear loose clothing, stay in the shade, and don't leave pets in the car. Now, quick look at our 3 and 5 day forecast. Well, high of 26 on Friday, and Saturday we're expecting a bit of that rain, which is going to cool things down temporarily, and we're right back up to 25 and warmer temperatures. But as we get into the start of next week, we can see we have some rain on Monday and Tuesday, as well as accompanied by some cooler temperatures and a low in 11 on Tuesday. Hope you all have yourselves a great night, and over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Victor. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everyone.